Welcome back. Improving the educational system in Nigeria is our lifestyle topic today. Education is a basic human right necessary for sustainable social and economic development. The ultimate goal of education is to spark a pursuit of knowledge in a child or adult so they can keep learning and grow into whoever, whatever they want to be. The Nigerian educational system has undergone several structural changes over the last 30 to 50 years, but we still have illiteracy as a problem in Nigeria. We also do have standard of teaching also at an all-time low. To discuss this with us on the weekend show, we have with us Kene Osakwe. She is Member Service Coordinator of AfriLabs, a Pan-African network organization that supports innovation in 45 countries. Welcome to the weekend show.
Thank you, Andy.
We also have a friend, Bella Ann Ndubisi, so I don't even have to read this to say who she is. She's a former curator of the Global Shapers Community, the Abuja Hub. She's also the founder of Girls Eat Hub. Bella's worked on a project called Shape Up Mentoring, which involved going to schools to train children in leadership and other skills, which I'm sure she'll talk about. But welcome to the weekend show.
Thank you, Andy. It's good
Let's
to be
go
here.
straight to it. During the break, we're talking about standard of education, and the internet as we have it is the same all over the world. So we are on the same internet with people in Russia, the UK, US, Ukraine, and so no one would really say, show your certificate before you can come on Twitter, before you can come on the website to talk. But when you come to Nigeria, how will you say the Nigerian child is based on standard of education compared to their contemporaries in other parts of the world? I'll start with you, Bella.
I'll say, the Nigerian system, our children are graduating. When our Nigerian children graduate and travel abroad, they actually tend to fare very well. They tend to fare very well because in Nigeria they've been, hopefully prepared with the theory of a lot of subjects, right? So they travel out to, the rest of the world, to the Western world, where they then come in contact with the practical of it. So they're able to fully utilize the theory, blend it with the practical, and they excel. If you travel to the United States, Nigerians, for instance, are, the most excelling when it comes to African students. And, we hear the news all the time. But I think we can do more when it comes to equipping our children early on with the technology, because right now, a lot of the jobs that we're finding are technology driven. So in the 21st century and beyond, jobs are technology driven. And so there's a lot we can do in that regard, starting early on, to ensure that we're not, setting up our children for failure. So that's one area I would say that we haven't quite fared very well at all, is in ensuring that, we're giving them, very practical skills that they need to be able to compete with their peers in the future. I also think that we can do a lot more when it comes to equipping children with very critical thinking skills, right? Today we see kids are cramming a lot, right? They're cramming to pass the exams. They're regurgitating exactly what the teacher asks them to do. But how can we ensure that they're thinking for themselves and that the responses they give in their quizzes are things that they've been able to, critically analyze, not necessarily regurgitate because this is what the teacher said, they want them to give on the exam day.
Okay, that's quite interesting. Kenny, so besides the children, and what Bella says is quite interesting, we complain about our educational system here, but we go out of the country and we win all the competitions, we study and we're best graduating students. But you come back to the people who are actually teaching the children. Kaduna State, for instance, in the last 2 years, they conducted a test for primary school teachers, and I think about 70% of the teachers couldn't pass those tests. Do you feel our teachers are equipped enough? And this is not even about salaries, which we'll come to teach these children in the right direction, or are the children actually, like you said, cramming and learning on their own to pass these exams?
Okay, thank you, Andy. I would go with Bella. Like, a lot of the kids are actually cramming and learning to pass the exams. And I believe a lot of the teachers are not actually equipped. So permit me to say, what I see more often is you leave school as a graduate, not really going through teacher's training, and then because the next available job is a teaching job, you take it up. So it's not like you have the basic skills to actually teach, because teaching involves a whole lot, which we don't actually put to play. It has to be practical. So what I really propose is more consideration should be given into training teachers to be quality teachers. Like, the world is getting digital, and it's funny when a lot of teachers, mostly in the government sectors, don't even have an idea of how to use a computer. Let me just go with that, basic. And then you have kids that actually are learning with this. So it's like the gap is widening, but the teachers are not in the new trend. There's no training for them. And then the kids are actually now forced to actually teach. So you have the situation of, give me what I teach you, don't about creative or go your own way. So you see people cramming because the teacher wants back marking scheme. So I think there's that gap, and teachers should actually still be trained on that.
Okay. Interestingly, the federal government has the universal basic education scheme, and so in several spaces, primary education is free for children at primary level. But it's also been reported that in some of these communities, the children don't even come to school. Enrollment is low. Bella, what do you think the reason could be for this?
That's a good question. I can understand that in some, especially in impoverished communities, children are playing more role as economic, like, they're part of bringing in, money into their families. So they're working, right? So for instance, in communities where girls are made to fetch water, made to do other, chores at home to make sure that the home is being sustained, right? So we're finding that they're taking on this kind of roles, and that's also part of the reason why enrollment levels are dropping. But I must say, I believe that education ought to be free at primary level, because education ought to be, available to everybody. Primary education is the most important education that you can give a child, right? The fundamentals. And it should be affordable for everyone. But it should also be quality primary education, right? Because to say that education is free and then a child walks into that education, classroom, there are no teachers, there are no books to learn, the teachers are not qualified to be able to provide that basic standard education, that's a problem. Are we fooling ourselves to say, oh, we can, it's not bragging rights to be able to say, we've provided free education. But what kind of free education are you providing? Is it quality education? So it's important to also be able to track things like this. In serious societies, when teachers are not showing up to class, the system knows that. You're able to track that. You're able to track what is teacher attendance rates, what is student attendance rate. You're able to track why are students not turning up to class. And you're able to address those issues at the, very primary levels. Interesting.
I was in the last couple of days, and on my way back to Abuja, traveling by road opens your eyes to a whole lot.
Yeah.
And so at about 9 a.m., we're passing some local government in Nasarawa State. And this was about 9 a.m. I saw children with cutlasses and hoes clearing grasses in front of their classrooms. I saw a set of girls doing frog jump, I'm sure, because they were coming late. If this is happening at 9 a.m., what would be happening for the rest of the day? And then you go beyond that. Children in other parts of the world are being taught sciences at a very early stage. In Nigeria, sciences, you learn sciences from SS1 to SS3. Do you think this is enough? Do you think our curriculum, and so this is speaking to the curriculum right now, do you think our curriculum is doing enough? And we'll start with the science space.
I don't think 3 years is enough to learn sciences, and this is me. I didn't like physics because when I had very bad teachers. I had about 7 teachers first term of SS1, and that
7 teachers.
Yes, because we kept changing teachers. It's funny, but we kept changing teachers. They were not qualified enough, and then there was this gap of physics teachers. And by the time we got a good one, I had zoned out of physics. And now this is me amongst thousands of others. But I think this should be introduced earlier on, not just SS1 to SS3. And it should not just be made theoretical. So there's this, it's sometimes made very complex, and you just feel, you know what, I'm just going to learn the formulas and everything. And it's not just made in a way you would understand. So even if we're planning to introduce it at any stage, we should think of ways to make this fun. Like Bella said before we started, she said we should make learning fun in the sense that people would now be interested. If I say this is fascinating or interesting, which sciences are chemistry, physics, they are really fascinating. But then if it's not taught that way to me, I have this cringe whenever I hear, oh, I'm going for science class. But then we should inculcate it in an earlier stage, maybe going down, just introduce it bits and bits. So by the time you're in SS1, you already have knowledge and you have background experience in this, and then you can actually take it further.
Okay, Bella, with the work you do with Girls Aid Hub, with the Shape Up mentoring, these students actually have their teachers to teach them. They have their curriculum. Why is there a need for voluntary organizations to come out on their own and still contribute in the education space? Is it that the schools aren't doing enough? Why do you do that?
It's, I wish I could sound more positive about this. I really, I don't appreciate the fact that when we talk about our education system, we talk about it with so much gloom, so to say. But the reason why you're finding different organizations coming into schools, to provide one sort of, training program or the other, be it technovation, be it leadership training, is because there's a real gap, right? There's a gap of training, like skills training, for instance. We've talked about technology, right? Our children are getting, they're getting introduced to technology, like right when they're born. Their parents have cell phones. They're playing with these things at 2 years old, at 3 years old. They're figuring out the apps. They're going on and on about it. But then they don't actually come to learn this thing, they don't understand the practicality or, the science behind it until much later, because that's sort of how the system is designed. So I'll give you an example. Shape Up Mentoring was an initiative that the Global Shapers introduced in 2015 because we recognized a gap in the system. So we realized that students early on are not getting the opportunity to learn about what all the different career options are, right? So folks are told, if you're great in science, go study, go be a medical doctor, go be an engineer. The big, the big courses, not even, don't talk about any other sciences that is not like medical,
law,
exactly, right? And if you're in the arts, you're a lawyer,
yeah.
But there's a whole lot more. There's a lot more to career options than that. So we designed this program, as an early intervention program to open up, students, teenagers to a variety of other career options outside of this core that, that are typically introduced to them earlier. Now, how do we do this? We connect them with mentors, individuals who are in these different fields, right? We allow them to get a chance to know these folks, learn about their works, and learn about, hopefully something sparks their interest to be able to think outside of the boxes that they're usually accustomed to thinking about, right? So we host regular meetups with them, and we, allow them to explore these different things. But we also recently learned that, they are prefects. So we have these folks who are called prefects. I was a prefect in secondary school at Dorothy International Secondary School, Aba. But when I was a prefect, nobody, told me, and I love Dorothy. I think Dorothy is one of the best schools in Nigeria, one of the best secondary schools in Nigeria. I love it for all the things it taught me. But as a prefect, for instance, I didn't get a manual on my role. I was a sports prefect because I liked sports. So it was natural to put in this girl who's always out, very active, right? But then no one gave me the A to Z of, how do you manage your student-to-student interaction? How do you manage your student-to-teacher interaction? Because as a prefect, you're sort of the go-between for the administration and the students. But I didn't get any practical. But prefects serve a very important role because that's the ground and that's sort of like where you begin to learn leadership, right? So when we introduce you, we give you this very important role to lead, but then we don't tell you how. You spend the rest of your prefect year sort of like dilly-dallying, but it's a very important role to, to build on and, gives you great opportunity to continue to build on your leadership skills. So that's one of the things we had to come up with was a prefect training to provide practical guide to prefects as far as how to lead and also how to measure success at the end of your prefect year.
When you get into university in Nigeria, you hear a lot of people say, oh, you don't have to just pass through university should pass through you. And I think that's what you're really implying. It should be beyond just what's in the book. How are you training these people for the society they're going out to? But just recently, the Joint Admission and Matriculations Board was in the news where it was alleged that cutoff mark to enter public universities was as low as 160 out of a possible 400. At the secondary school level, to get to public schools, some states have their cutoff mark at 2 out of a possible 100. Some have it as low as 4, and some other states have it as high as 60 to 80%, 60 to 70% in the same country where we talk about federal character. But if you're not training these people at the same level to qualify for certain, let's say, privileges and opportunities at the same level, what are you preparing them for? So, cutoff marks in different states, different regions, and with the work you do with AfriLab, how does this affect us in the short run and in the long run?
Okay, in response to your question, so before this, I was discussing with the team outside, and I was talking of how about we decentralize the education system, so taking it to different states, because I guess every state is peculiar in a way, and I'm going to come back to the cutoff mark and what I do with AfriLabs. Now, reducing it to 160, remember we said we're in a system where most times we actually cram than understand what we are reading. So the truth is, even if it's been reduced to 160 and it's really a shotgun, 160 over 400, that's quite low. Now it begins to question how is this educational system, and you said other states actually have lower. Now, what if in this situation we start decentralizing it? Now, understanding the system of a state and understanding the peculiarities in which the students learn. Now, it would also help in improving the scores of students. So it's not just going to be a case of I have to pass. Working with the AfriLabs, I work with a lot of innovation hubs across Africa, and it is some of what Bella is doing. So they have code for school students, where they bring in the student and teach them skills outside the normal skills. So you have to teach them how to code. I see kids at 8, 9, 10 years developing the skills, but this is something they don't get to develop when in school. So should we start thinking outside the box and beyond this? Now, how about students that are peculiar, that actually can't meet the academic mark? What are we doing for them? What skills are we helping them harness? I don't think reducing the cutoff mark is the answer, actually. I think it's coming up with different ways to make and improve the educational system.
So I saw a tweet from Bashir Ahmed, one of the media aides to the president, where he said one of the president's priorities in the next 4 years is education, education, education. We heard about TED Fund and Nigerian universities being given 208 billion to improve the system, which in most cases may go to structure or overhead. We've recently heard about history being made compulsory in our curriculum because it was taken up at some point, which I don't understand why. So back to curriculum, we are celebrating history being brought back into our syllabus, which I think is great. But what's your evaluation of our curriculum, Bella?
Like I said earlier, I think, there's a lot we can do with our curriculum to make sure that we're preparing, because it has to be student-centered. That we're graduating students who are ready for today and tomorrow, not yesterday, right? So we can't be operating in a curriculum from like 20 years ago and expect that the students are going to come out and be competitive, right? So I think it's important that we go back and do some real revamp. I mean, there's been a lot of talk around curriculum, updating curriculum for so long. But it is and I'm glad that the president is making this a priority for the next 4 years. And I can't think of anything that is more crucial in a country where the human beings, where Nigerians are the most important resource. I can't think of anything more important than making sure that we prioritize education, right? Our human resources is like one of the most important things that we have going for us. We have to prioritize the system that emerges, the kind of quality of people that we want, and make sure that we're solving for that. Because when we're not, then we're setting up ourselves for failure. So there's need to make sure that our curriculum is designed in such a way that our kids are coming out as critical thinkers, and we're harnessing their best talents, right? Because we're not children already have innate abilities within them. We just need to provide, you know, practical guide that allows them to kind of hone those talents. So our curriculum should be focused on honing the talents that are already embedded in children, not allowing them to just, you know, go and throw things in and then just come and throw it off. So creative thinking, tech-driven, and I think there's a lot to be said for making sure that we have the most competitive hands training our children. Because we can't say that we're prioritizing education, yet we allow, you know, folks who can't make it into any other system or any other career path come and be in education. I think education should be, teachers are probably the most important resource that we have, because these are the folks that are training your future. You know, be it in folks who, you know, become politicians, who would drive the economy, the whole 9 yards. So it's really important that we make sure that we're investing a lot in our education system.
This past week, several thousands of Nigerian graduates just passed out from the National Youth Service Corps, which means more people in the employment market. Some of these people were sent to schools to teach where they couldn't wait to leave there because they were forced to do it. Some of these people, most of them are coming into the labor market, as we call it. What are we doing to, and I know they have a lot of skills acquisition trainings, but what's the private sector? What are innovation labs such as yours doing to, is it in your future to work with our graduates at that level, at the NYC level, to prepare them for the world coming out? And the second part to it is, there's a huge push towards technology. What are we doing? Are you doing anything with the creative space, and would you encourage that, creative and arts?
Okay, thank you for your question. So beyond they live in NYC, I know some of our hubs already work with them when they are still students. Now, you mentioned vocational and skills training. I don't believe it should be something that just starts immediately there in university. It should be something they actually imbibe in them when they're in university. A lot of universities have actually started that. I know of hubs, Stats Innovation Hub in UU. It's actually focused in a school area. So what they do is during breaks, they encourage students to come in. They make them go through the whole process of design thinking, and then make them come up with ideas in solution to their problems. Now, what this does is before they leave school, you find out that they have come up with innovative solutions, and then they have come up with sustainable models, and then they're fending from themselves. So the business is already generating revenue. So by the time they're done with NYC, they are now job creators. They are not actually coming out to look for jobs. But then also they have other programs now depending on interest. And that's why I like what Bella said about sparking the interest in technology in these kids. I'll look at also picking out the skill sets of people. I was telling you, Germany actually does vocational educational training. So you know that there are people that actually want to develop themselves in a skill set. I have a child that is very, very skilled in development programs, right? Why not then train that child on that? Not bypassing the higher education system, but then combining this so that by the time the child is out, the child has both skills. It will actually go a long way. So those that we have programs, we have digital skill programs. Most of these hubs actually help these people come up with ideas. They have incubation programs where they put you through. Most of them last for 3 to 6 months. And then at the end of the day, they help you design and come up with a model that works and helps your business to grow over time. Now, your question about the creative and technology. Yes, there is a collaboration amongst them because there's a link between the creatives and the technology spaces. And it's interesting enough that there's been a lot of conversation going on now. How would the tech and creative work together? Because seeing that we are both solving problems. We have few hubs also that are actually creative and actually technology hubs. So they encourage that because also as a creative, you need technology to actually boost yourself. Not going far. YouTube is actually a technology app. The use of Facebook, Instagram, this is technology promoting our creatives. So I see this actually as a way of integrating the future and then helping us go beyond just the local scale, but also go to a global trend.
The governor of Rivers State just this past week has also declared that primary and secondary school education in the state should be free. We need to do better with our curriculum. We need to train our children on not just the theoretical part, they need to have the practical experience. We need to improve technology. Bella and Kenny, I think that's a great place to leave it. It was a pleasure having you on the weekend show talking about this topic, which is improving the standard of education. We hope policymakers and parents and everybody know that they have a role to play in this. Don't go away. We'll be going on the break, and after that, we have social media trends and entertainment on the weekend show.